Hi, Beth Burgess here, author of The Recovery Formula and The Happy Addict, and therapist at Smiles. Um, I wanted to just bust a myth today about this link between creativity and substance misuse or abuse or being addicted, whatever you want to call it. Because there was something I was reading in the headlines where Lars von Trier, who's a Danish filmmaker who makes like really quite dark work, he basically was concerned that quitting substances would actually make him lose his creative edge. I actually really liked a lot of his stuff, but then that's because I it's quite strange. It's strange stuff, man. If you've not seen it, but in many ways excellent. So he sort of thought that drugs were necessary to help him be creative, but then when he said that, he was in the early days of recovery, and what I would say is that maybe in the early days of recovery it is more difficult. And that's because you don't know how to get your kind of creative juices flowing. But there are ways of doing it. It's just about learning how. So, firstly, I mean, if you think about, there seem to be so many people. We always hear about musicians and writers and everyone, being, sex, drugs, rock and roll and going off to rehab and things like that. But if you think about it, actually, that's only a proportion of people. There are millions and millions of celebrities and successful people who have never used drugs or drink inappropriately, who have never done that ever. It's just that what we see in the media is not, ace person, this, is sober all the time. That's not a headline, is it? So, think about it. I mean, I'm into writing, and I love writers. And so, if you think about Oscar Wilde, for example, he was an alcoholic. Kingsley Amis, alcoholic. Both produced some excellent work, but both died completely alcoholics. From alcoholism. But for every one of those, there's Stephen King, who got sober and still writes, prolifically and is really, really popular. There's Raymond Carver, who got sober and then was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. And I used to have this problem myself, because I write creatively, and I write sort of other books as well. And sort of self-help, obviously. And I was worried that I would kind of lose my creative streak. And when I think about it, especially with creative writing and stuff, I used to write a lot when drunk. And some of it might have been genius, but to be honest, when I woke up the next morning, half the time I couldn't even read it. So it wasn't a great strategy for creativity anyway. But what you need is basically, if you're worried about losing your creativity in whatever form, whether you're an artist, a musician, whatever you like to do, it's just about finding a new way to get your creative juices flowing. So some people swear by, different inspirational things. So getting into nature inspires a lot of people. Doing things like, I'll tell you what I do. I literally close the curtains and get myself a gallon of coffee, and that is good enough for me. But also reading works of others. So again, if you're an artist, looking at the works of others, studying craft. Getting into the zone in a way. That's how I get into the zone, is I close my curtains and just don't let any of the world in. It's just me and my mind, and we do some nice work together. But there's lots of things. Again, movement is one of these things that people don't realise actually promotes creativity. If you think about it, what do a lot of people do when they've got a problem to solve and they don't know how to solve it? they instinctively go for a walk. That's because movement actually changes the state of your brain. So you could do that. Movement helps. Going for a walk helps. Some people find listening to music. There's all sorts of different ways of getting your creative juices flowing. So you just need to find out what the best ways are for you. If you do want to still make sure that you're producing great work, and actually most of the work that you produce when you're clean and sober will be a lot better than anything that you did drunk. I've heard that from a lot of people. For example, Eric Clapton, for example, he's always said that his best work was done after he got sober. So if you're a fan of him, you can take an inspiration from that. But anyway, so it's just complete rubbish basically that you have to be drunk or stoned or whatever to be creative. You don't. You just have to get yourself into the zone, and all you have to do is learn how to do that for you. Okay, like I said, mine's a curtains closed and a load of coffee thing. Yours could be people watching, studying other famous, whatever's doing art or writing or whatever. But that's all you need to do. And you'll find your work is much more sensible, and when I say sensible, I mean cohesive, and interesting probably as well, because when if you think about people having conversations down a pub, what do? They drone on and on about the same thing, so if you imagine that translated to whatever your particular creative thing is, your outlet, probably would be the same. So far better to bring variety into your life, get inspired in a way that works for you. All you need to do is find it. Okay, so I hope that busts that myth for you. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.